everyone again. And if you would please find your seats, we're going to get our program started today. Okay, we're going to call this to order, and I'm going to have Loretta Bailey come and introduce our speaker for this morning.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for coming, everybody. We have Heather Bass here. Most of us know her. She is the Conservation Supervisor for Environmental Services for Tarrant Regional Water District. And today she's going to teach us all about turf alternatives. I'm really excited about this one because, as you guys know, I hate grass. I'm trying to get rid of grass all the time and create more flower beds or put in some ground cover to eliminate that pesky, water, thirsty, chemical-dependent grass. So Heather will be here to help us with that.
So much for being here today to talk about turf alternatives, and Loretta did a great introduction. That's exactly what it is. I know you guys probably all prefer non-turf options because y'all are gardeners and turf isn't the most exciting plant to grow. But I'm going to talk a little bit today about some alternatives to turf. So as most of you know, I'm from Tarrant Regional Water District, and so before I start every talk, I gotta talk just a little bit about TRWD. So we're your local raw water providers if you are in Tarrant County, and what that means is we maintain lakes and pipelines. We call lake service reservoirs, but we maintain those things to pump raw water, untreated water from those lakes up to the Tarrant County area. And then we pump that out to all of the cities within Tarrant County. So like Fort Worth, Arlington, Mansfield, all of those cities, they take that raw water into their water treatment plants. They treat it to drinking water standards, and then they pump it out to all of our homes and businesses. So that is our part in the water supply process. And then we also do flood control. Many of you are probably voting right now for our board, so thank you for interacting with our process. But for that flood control, we maintain levees and flood zones and things like that around the Trinity River so that we try to decrease the flooding, and mainly in Fort Worth, but anywhere the Trinity River goes within Tarrant County. And then we also do recreation, so we maintain the Trinity Trails. We have parks associated with our lakes and with the Trinity Trails, all of that type of thing. And so many of you have probably gone to one of our lakes to recreate, and that's really a special thing because for a lot of other states and other cities in the United States, their surface reservoirs that they use to get water from are not open to the public. They're private lakes, essentially, that are owned by the water districts. And so the fact that we allow people to, live on those lakes, boat, fish, swim, all the things you do with lakes is really special, and we're proud to be able to provide that because, as you probably know, we don't really have any natural lakes here in Texas. So most of them are for drinking water. And so water conservation is a really important water supply strategy. Like Loretta said, I'm with the conservation department, and for us, typically during the summertime, about 60 to 70% of our water use just goes to people watering their lawns. And so, as you can imagine, if we're already in a drought, it's already hot, it's already dry during the summertime, it really puts a strain on our supplies and on our infrastructure because we can only pump so much through a pipe at one point in time, all right? So that is why I'm here today talking to you guys about alternatives to turf, because turf grass, particularly St. Augustine, which is our most common turf grass that people have here, is really water intensive. So if you're curious about some of our other programs or more information about water conservation, you can go to SaveTarrantWater.com and learn more about that. We've got plenty of different awesome programs and videos and tips and things like that. And I will just call out one thing. We do have the Conservation Treasures Program, is what we call it, and it is a garden grant program. It is specifically for conservation landscaping that is open to the public. So typically we do things at like, community centers or parks or schools, things like that, right? To demonstrate some of these low water use landscaping techniques to the public. And have them, out in the public so people kind of see what's going on and also can visit it and maybe get some ideas for their own yard, that type of thing. And so if any of you have a project right now where you're doing that type of thing and are looking for some grant money, it's up to $5,000. So check out our Treasures program on safecareandwater.com if you're interested in applying. It was just doing. Oh, did it go now? Technical difficulties, folks. 1 second. I see it up on that. All right, while he pulls it back up, I'm just going to talk about some of the flyers you guys have. So if you're on the first few rows, you definitely have a flyer on the back rows. I ran out of flyers, I'm sorry, but if you do want one, come up to the front and get one. There's plenty still in these empty chairs. Oh, yes, okay. Let me talk about this first, and then I'll talk about the flyers. So next weekend, May 10th, we are having an awesome landscaping event. It's the Homeowner's Guide to Landscaping. If you guys are interested in coming and hearing some talks about landscaping in Texas, we've got some amazing door prizes we are giving away. We're going to have vendors. Some of you will already be there, working at the Master Gardener table. But if you're interested in going to a really awesome landscaping/gardening event, please go to safecareandwater.com and look at the event calendar and check this out. Like I said, it's on May 10th and it is in Arlington. All right, so for the flyers, I just want to talk briefly about the Learn and Grow program. Most of you probably know what the Learn and Grow program is, but if you don't, it is a partnership that TRWD has with the Tarrant County Master Gardeners. It's a contract that we have with you guys. And for us, like I said, they're our raw water provider, and so that means that our customers are the cities in Tarrant County that are purchasing water from us. And so for me, in the conservation department, I help some of those cities with their conservation needs, and part of that is classes and events all about gardening and conservation. And so we have this program where we partner with you guys to provide speakers, to provide facilitators, things like that, people for events, for these various programs within the cities. And the contract is a pretty good amount. The contract itself, I think, is maxed out at $56,000, but we also do some additional stuff on top of that. So in 2024, $72,000 is how much we paid you guys to administer this program. And so we are always in need of more help. We need more speakers, we need more facilitators. There is an amazing group of people that work to administer this program, and they're always in need of help. And so please either scan that QR code on the flyer that you got. If you did not get a flyer, you can contact Nancy Furl or Cheryl Wyatt, either of those, Teresa Thomas. They can all help you get involved with the program. But we need more people, always need more people. And if you don't have any experience or, need training, we can provide that as well. So don't worry, we just need willing participants. Oh, you're good.
Oh, sorry. Yes, we have vehicles that need to be moved. So if anyone has a white Ford Expedition with license plate 4RRSN or a black Kia Optima with license plate PST 3149, would you please move those from the entrance area? Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. All right, so now I'm going to talk to you guys about turf alternatives. So like I said, turf is very, it's not only water intensive, but it's very chemical intensive, work intensive, maintenance intensive, and so I'm going to talk to you guys today about some alternatives to that. So I like to promote earth-friendly landscapes. When I'm talking about earth-friendly landscapes, I'm talking about minimizing some of those things that we do that do hurt the earth or hurt our local ecosystems. That's things like fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, not growing plants that are going to allow water to soak into, our reserves in the soil and also down far underground. But I'm also talking about monetary costs, maintenance, time, effort, all of those things. But then maximizing the things that are both good for our ecosystem and good for you. So we still want, everyone's landscape to be able to provide the things that we want our landscapes to provide. And that can be a variety of things, including, probably for you guys, enjoyment of gardening, right? Spending time out in your landscape and in your gardens. But then also more functional stuff, like, maybe you've got a dog that needs to go use the restroom, or you've got kids or grandkids that like to play, and that type of thing. So maximizing these benefits for the earth, minimizing the things that are hurting the earth, but then maximizing our enjoyment of those landscapes. So like I said, so much water goes to maintaining turf. It is absolutely crazy. In terms of this graphic is from the US EPA, and so this is on a more national scale, but our sprinkler systems are really the cause of a lot of the water waste. Just, a lot of people have their sprinkler systems running when they're not looking at them. It gets running at like 4 a.m. or something like that, and you don't realize that it's spreading the sidewalk, or that it has a leak or something like that. So like I said, 60 to 70% of our water use in the summertime goes just to watering lawns. A good portion of that is sprinkler systems. On top of that, our sprinkler systems are typically only about 50% of that on average is actually getting into our soil. So you can see that that's about 30 to 35% of our total water use is being pretty much just absolutely wasted due to inefficient sprinkler systems that are primarily watering those lawns. And so that is what we're trying to minimize. We are looking at right now in terms of, so TRWD plans out 50 years ahead for our water use and our water supply. And we're looking at the population doubling in the next 50 years. And there's already a lot of people here. So you can imagine how much we need to decrease on some of these inefficient and not necessary water uses, like the use on turf grass, so that we can make sure to provide the water for people that actually need it, like to, bathe and cook food and medical processes, industrial processes to make things, that type of thing. And so, St. Augustine is a tropical grass, and we do not live in a tropical ecosystem. I think most of you know that. It gets really hot and dry here, and so just to keep that grass alive and green during the summertime, it is so much water. So talking just a bit about the history of lawns, they were originally, in the beginning, they were created because people just wanted to keep like snakes and stuff away from their house, right? So you live maybe out in the country in medieval times, you are wanting to cut the vegetation around your house to make sure there's not like snakes or other like wild animals stalking around, hurting you, maybe your children, maybe your cattle or your sheep or whatever, that type of thing. But then at some point in time, it really shifted into more of a status symbol, where it was created by the elite members of society to essentially show, like, hey, I can have all this land that is cultivated, but it's not actually providing anything, like in terms of crops and things like that. And it was a status symbol, a symbol of wealth. And so, looking at those original origins, a lot of times that was, the wealthy landowners, castles, lords, that type of thing back in the day. And so even those castles have changed their minds now. So if you go now and you look at some of these areas, of course we don't really have castles here in America, but over in Europe where these trends started, you will see that they have now gone back to more naturalistic ecosystems. And I was just recently at a native plant conference in Kansas City, Missouri, and a woman talked that was one of the people who maintain these landscapes in Europe, and went to one of the like prestigious landscaping horticulture academies in England or something like that. And she said that they actually use a lot of Texas native plants in these landscapes because you can imagine that in Europe, and particularly like in places like in London or something like that, their flowers don't have a really long blooming season. They only have a very short, like few months during the middle of the summer where they get these beautiful blooms, and so they need to go outside of that in order to find some things that will bloom earlier in the spring, later in the fall. And so a lot of times they're using Texas native plants to make these beautiful gardens there. So looking at the cost of a lawn, I'm going to go into a little bit of math now. So basically, we run weekly watering advice. It's one of our services, and we have weather stations where we are calculating based on a formula the water use, right, that your lawn should get. And so the way we do that is we look at evapotranspiration, right? So that's the water that is going through the plant and evaporating out through its pores, basically. And so when we look at that, looking at the difference between a native plant and a lawn, we're looking at, on St. Augustine turf, what we call a plant factor of 0.7 to 0.8. That means that we are replacing 70 to 80% of that total evaporation through irrigation, whether that be our natural rainfall or supplemental irrigation, which in the case of St. Augustine, we need that supplemental irrigation. But then when it comes to the native plant, you can see down here at the bottom, we're looking at a plant factor of 0.3 to 0. So that's either not replacing any of that, or maybe just watering a little bit during the summertime, all the way up to replacing only a third of it. So you can see how the St. Augustine grass is using about 3 times the amount of water that a native plant is using. And so that is kind of how we're calculating these things, and I'm going to go into the actual savings. So even if you had native plants that you are doing the maximum on in terms of watering them, so replacing that like 1/3 or so, and you're having a St. Augustine lawn that you are doing the minimum on. Now this is scientifically how much you should water a St. Augustine lawn. I will say that typically people water double what is needed. So you can really double this number, honestly, for St. Augustine. This is what it needs. This is not what people are actually giving it. A lot of people that have St. Augustine lawns, and particularly with automatic sprinkler systems, are watering more than they need to, and they're not turning it off when we get rain. So you guys know we've just gotten a whole bunch of rain in the last, few days or whatever, and I'm still driving down the street and seeing sprinkler systems on, right? So people just set their controller and completely forget about it and don't turn it off. So this is, if people did the most perfect thing, right? Turning it off when we have rain and watering the amount that the St. Augustine actually needs. And it's actually making people St. Augustine weaker to water it that much, right? Because the more it gets watered, the less incentive it has to grow deep roots. And so you're getting these very shallow roots that are making the grass way weaker and way more susceptible to drought because it's not tapping that soil moisture that's far down into the soil. So you can save 13,000 gallons a year. That's on our average landscape here, which is about 9,000 square feet. That's an average for Tarrant County in terms of the front yard and the backyard. But it's not just the water, it's also the mowing and the fertilizer, the time of maintenance, the edging, just everything that goes into a lawn is so incredibly resource intensive. We had an expert that talked about lawn care to one of our classes that we did last year, and she said that technically for St. Augustine during its peak growing period, that if you are watering at the correct amount, that you should be mowing every 4 days. And I'm thinking, that is crazy. Like, there's no way I'm maintaining my plants every 4 days and not even getting anything out of it. And I will just say that St. Augustine is the #1 irrigated crop in the United States. And we don't get anything out of it. We just look at it. And for a lot of people, it's our front yards that we want to keep the nicest. And those are the non-functional turf areas. So a lot of people use the turf in their backyard. You know, like I said, maybe you've got kids or grandkids that are playing on it. Maybe you've got some dogs that are using the restroom. You like badminton or croquet or something, I don't know. But front yards, like a lot of times, the only time people are interacting with their front yard is when they are out there maintaining it. And then, you guys are master gardeners, you know, you go to like your local big box stores and they're selling these things like weed and feed that make absolutely no sense to what is really going on in terms of like fertilizer. You wouldn't weed and feed at the same time, right? Like you wouldn't put an herbicide and a feed at the same time. The herbicide should have already been put probably 2 months before you're feeding your grass, right? So, you know, it's an industry and it's pushed on people who don't know as much. And it's very resource intensive, and it's bad for our ecosystem because all of these chemicals are running off from people's yards into our storm drains. Those are going into our local lakes, and this is when we have things like these crazy algae blooms, these fish kills, right? When we get these anaerobic conditions in the water because the algae is going crazy. Okay, so here's what I'm asking you today, to remove most of, if not all of your lawns. So typically for TRWD, what we ask is to go with the 1/3 system. So 1/3 of your yard or your total landscape being functional turf. You don't need turf if it's not functional, but like I said, many of us do use turf for reasons and typically in our backyard. But 1/3 functional turf, 1/3 some type of plant beds, whether that be, you know, like vegetable gardens or fruit orchards or something like that, or what we prefer, native plants. I mean, I know that vegetable gardens use water, but if you're gonna be watering stuff, we would like you at least to get some vegetables or something out of it and not just be turf that is just sitting there being mowed, basically. And then 1/3 permeable hardscape, so that's gonna be some type of hardscape, some type of surface, living area, outdoor living area, that type of thing, that does not need to be watered, but that water can still soak into. So we're not talking about like concrete or, you know, pavers that have been grouted in, maybe pavers with gravel in between them or that type of thing. So yeah, that's kind of our ask, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. And pretty much I tell people all the time, how do you know if it's non-functional turf? If the most time that you are spending with your grass is when you are maintaining it, when you're mowing it every week, then that's how you know it's non-functional. So talking about that permeable hardscape, there is permeable concrete that you can get. So this is a concrete mix that you can get. We have some over at TRWD, there's some over at the Botanic Gardens in front of Grit if you want to kind of see how it works or whatever, so that is a thing. But, you know, stones, pavers, gravel, mulch, any of those type of things, like I said, non-plant areas that are going to let water soak into the ground, but not need to be watered. So here's some of those options. Dry creek beds is a really great thing, particularly if you're having like stormwater issues or you want to route stormwater. We have tons of them over at the TRWD campus that you can look at if you would like to. Many of you have been there to take a tour with us, and so thank you if you have visited us for some of those tours. But these are areas that they look like a really great, you know, landscaping feature, even when they're dry. But then when we do get rain, like now, these will fill up and allow that water to slowly infiltrate into the ground, rather than it just running off into our storm drains. And it will also clean the water because these pebbles or these stones that you'll put in these dry creek bed features will have a biofilm layer around them that will harbor bacteria and other microbes that will process some of those larger molecules that are pollutants, basically chemicals, and process them into smaller molecules that can be used by the plants and that are non-toxic. Rock gardening's great too. Rock gardens look really cool. Again, they're great for maintaining like stormwater if you have an area that maybe gets too wet or you want to route stormwater to another area. You can use them in combination with plants. Rocks are awesome. They look great. You can do, big boulders will have lichens and moss and stuff on them, or almost little like gardens within their own selves. And it can really add some interest to your landscape. Some more just kind of cool pictures. I try my best to just build these presentations after I talk about the more scientific math portion of it, to just build some inspiring photos, right? So that we can get some inspiration for how we want our landscapes to look. But it doesn't have to be like a desert, xeriscape type landscape, right? We can use rock gardening in other ways as well. Outdoor living spaces, so maybe a patio for your outdoor dining area or your barbecue grill. I've seen people that have done like outdoor movie areas where they'll have a projector like this, and like it projects on the side of their house or the side of their garage or shed or something like that, where they can have a little area to sit outside. Fire pits, things like that. So having an area outside where you can spend time, and that is perfect for some of this permeable hardscape. So many different things. I want to talk just briefly about the Memorial Garden. I went to the Hidden Gardens tour that's put on by the Fort Worth Historic Society like last year, and there was a yard that had a really awesome memorial garden for all of their pets that had died over the years, and so I thought that was really special and really neat. I'm a pet person, so. Yeah, here's what I'm talking about, like a little movie theater type area, a place for you and your friends to hang out, not usually during the summertime, maybe during the summertime at night, right? It gets pretty hot during the summer, but for these spring and fall and pretty warm winters that we have, really we can spend quite a bit of time outdoors. And I know you guys are master gardeners, so you probably love spending time outdoors. Paths are also great. Paths can be a great landscaping feature. It can break up our landscape, show people where to go if they're walking around in our landscape. It can, maybe you've got a path that goes over to a bench for you to sit down and have your morning coffee, this type of thing. But paths are a really great way to use some of this permeable hardscape. Compost piles. So this is another thing that is great to have. I know that most of you probably use compost in your gardens. I always think it's interesting during the springtime, particularly when you see, I see this in my neighborhood, you see the people and they've got a billion bags of leaves like outside their house, right? And they've bagged up every leaf in their entire landscape for the city or whatever to come pick up. And then they go to the store and they buy that many bags of compost again, right? And you're like, those leaves could just be the compost. And usually the compost from the store is not as good as quality as you could, make yourself if you just piled those leaves up and had a compost pile. So compost piles are a great addition to any garden. Raised beds are awesome. You can have little paths in between them, right? They're good for being able to keep water in your beds, particularly like if you have vegetable beds or things like that, but it can be a nice landscaping feature. You can have some of that permeable, those paths in between, it's, mulch or gravel or something like that. And it's a really good way to have an area of your landscape that isn't completely planted and is a nice little feature. All right, so I'm going to talk about another 1/3, right? So the non-turf plants. And so this is just garden beds, basically, or flower beds, whatever we want to describe it as. But of course, we recommend native plants. So native plants are awesome. They provide so many things for us in terms of if you're looking for a certain look or if you're looking for a certain landscaping aesthetic, you can find a native plant that will fill pretty much any of the slots that you want it to in terms of gardening. Like if you want, you know, a 3-foot tall purple flower that blooms during the springtime or whatever, you know, you can find a native plant that goes into that. But native plants are low water use, and they provide for our local pollinators. Everybody knows about, you know, bee collapse, pollinator collapse, right? And so every year we're getting less and less insects. The monarch populations are dwindling, you know, we get extinctions and all of that. And so having these native plants support those things. And I will just say one thing about like nativars, cultivars. So there are a lot of those out there. A lot of them are low water use. And if all you care about is low water use conservation, that is great. Go ahead and buy those things. But if you care about our pollinators, a lot of those nativars, native cultivars that nurseries have created do not provide for our pollinators. And this can be for a variety of reasons. A lot of times it's because in order to make it whatever different color they did or whatever they, you know, changed about it, they're crossing it with some other, usually species within the same genus. And what that means is, it's just like if you mate a horse with a donkey and you get a mule, that mule can't mate anymore, right? It's not sexually reproductive. Same thing with these plants. They don't produce pollen. They don't produce nectar because they're not reproductive. So this is where you get these things where people are like, I have all these flowers. Why aren't they, you know, why don't I have butterflies? Why don't I have bees? And like to you, you're looking at it, it looks like a great flower, why not? But it's because they don't have any nectar or pollen. So to the butterflies, the bees, the other pollinators, they're looking at it and they're like, there's nothing there for me, you know? Like, what? There's nothing there. So a lot of times they'll also do something where they will induce the plant to bloom all at once, right? So you have these beautiful, huge clusters of a bunch of flowers. But that takes a lot of resources for the plant. And so the plant doesn't have the resources to make pollen or make nectar or that type of thing. And so a lot of the strategies that are used make it to where those things are turned off. And so if you're looking for something that will support our pollinators, it's best to get the actual native species. So you could do a wildflower patch or a pocket prairie. This is kind of like your most naturalistic, right? Your most wild style, if you will. It's also the least resource intensive and also the least maintenance intensive. So you can create a little pocket prairie, a little wildflower garden, typically by just clearing an area, putting down some seeds, letting them grow. They'll continue to come back year after year. You know, you can do some things to make it look a little bit more neat and organized if you would like to do those things. A lot of people like to do this in areas of their yard where they don't get irrigation for some reason. Like sometimes we just have dry patches in our yards. And a lot of times this can be also areas that are near the street or near your concrete driveway that get a lot of reflective heat, and so it stays really hot in those areas during the summertime. And these native plants, these native wildflowers, are fine with that. Rain gardens are great too. So looking at the opposite side of the spectrum, which many of you might be dealing with right now, I know I had a flash flood warning yesterday. And a lot of the new development that is happening, you know, our development laws aren't as strong as I would like for them to be. And so these developers aren't leaving enough land for flood zones in these neighborhoods. And so we're getting a lot of localized flooding, particularly in these new houses. And so, unfortunately, as soon as the developer sells the house to the individual, it is now the individual's responsibility, and the liability goes to the homeowner. And so if your yard is, let's say, draining into your neighbor's yard and creating flooding issues in their house, it's now your legal liability. And so maybe we have the opposite issue where our neighbor's yard is, you know, draining into our yard. And so a lot of times we need to do something to either route that stormwater somewhere else, or just make sure that it is being maintained in the way that we want it to be maintained. Some of us might just have like a muddy spot in our yard that just looks nasty and muddy during the times of when it's raining a lot. So creating a rain garden with native plants is a really great way to root this water to where you want it to, let it hold and be soaked into your soil instead of it just rushing straight off your property onto somebody else's property or into the street or something like that. It's also going to clean some of those toxins out as it works its way through the vegetation, slows that water down, all of that. So rain gardens can be beautiful and also functional. If you've got areas under a tree, there are great shade gardens you can make. As most of you probably know, if you've got such deep shade that St. Augustine won't grow underneath it, there is no turf grass that is going to grow underneath your tree. St. Augustine is pretty much the most shade tolerant turf grass that we have. And I see people all the time in my neighborhood who seem to not realize that, and they're constantly trying to like put new sod pieces every year on the areas underneath their like giant oak trees. And I want to just tell them like, hey, you're never going to get grass to grow there. It's a huge oak tree. It's got a lot of shade around it, so you can create some beautiful shade gardens with native plants that will work in places where that turf grass will not work. And it also creates a nice little landscaping feature you see where you've got the kind of border around the base of your tree, and it's filled with different things. It's also great to plant a tree. So if you don't have any trees, excellent to plant a tree. One of the things about turf grass that is bad is that it has horrible temperature regulation. I mean, it gets hot here, and I know we're all using so much electricity during the summertime to run our air conditioner systems. And if you have trees, if you have thick native vegetation, it will regulate the temperature around your yard, and you could get a difference of 20 to 30 degrees during the middle of the summertime just by having some deep shade or just by shading portions of your house. You can save a lot of money on your electricity bill on your air conditioner, and also, of course, add longevity to the life of your air conditioner. So planting trees in a planned, systematic way in your landscape can help with these horrible temperatures that we have during the summertime. And if you think like 20 to 30 degrees, I mean, you can get to up to what, like 105 a lot of times during the peak of our summer. So, I mean, if your landscape is 85 to 75 degrees compared to that, that's like an oasis. And then, of course, planting some food. You can plant vegetable gardens. You can plant some, fruit trees to have a nice little fruit orchard. You can plant an herb garden. You can plant some berry bushes or things like that. There's so many great food plants that you can plant. And Texas is really good for some things in terms of gardening, and one of them is that we have a really long growing period, right? And you can get quite a few vegetables to grow over the winter here, and you can also get two crops, or you have like a spring crop and a fall crop of vegetables. So there are not a ton of vegetables that will produce during the middle of our summertime, but all the rest of the time of the year, you can get quite a bit. There are also a lot of alternative ground covers. So a lot of people, it's really popular right now, replacing your turf grass with alternative ground covers. Some of those that I see, online articles about and things like that are not necessarily the best for Texas and aren't really going to grow, particularly during our Texas heat, which is when a lot of people want to maintain that greenness. But there are a lot of great options that you can do that are native plants or native plants that are good for our Texas area. And so there are tons of awesome native ground covers. Horse herb is a good one. Frog fruit's a good one. There are clovers. I want to talk briefly about clovers. I've been talking to my boss a little bit about clovers lately, and so a lot of these ones that you see that are now being marketed for alternative ground covers, alternative lawns, are not the best for Texas and probably won't look that great, particularly during the summertime. But we have tons of native different types of clovers that you can go with that will create a beautiful like lawn look, but won't need that maintenance as much and won't need as much water. And so one of them that I really like is Marcellina macrocarpa, and it is a, they call it Bigfoot water clover. And so you probably are thinking, water clover, wow, that seems like it needs a lot of water. But it really doesn't at all. And so it's one of these things that is maybe great for a rain garden because it can be wet and it won't die if it's got wet roots for a long period of time, but it also won't die if it's dry for a long period of time. And so if you've ever been over to the Botanical Research Institute of Texas, they have like their bioswale system there in the parking lot. One of those full bioswales is full of this Marcellina macrocarpa. The ones that are like the second one further up towards the back gate, more up in elevation over there. And I was there when they planted it, and we planted, you know, I mean, it was a big area. We planted a few hundred plants in there, but there was a good amount of space in between them. And man, that thing filled out in no time. That stuff just grew everywhere, and it creates a really nice little carpet, basically, of ground cover. So that's one good clover that I want to call out. But there are tons of clovers that are native to Texas and that will do good in Texas. All right, and then I'm going to go back to the native plants. So lastly, I'm just going to touch on native plants in general in terms of having native plant beds and the different things that you can do with those. Like I said, no matter what your landscape aesthetic is or what you want to go for, you can find a native plant that will fall in that category and likely use way less resources than, you know, whatever more traditional plant might have particularly, you know, previously gone in that slot. So I just want to show some, like I said, some inspirational photos. This is kind of what we're looking at and what we're going for in terms of a lot of what we do or what I do at TRWD is really trying to change the culture around landscapes and show that landscapes can be beautiful that aren't just your traditional suburban lawn landscape with like the box bushes, you know, up against the house, maybe a few petunias or something like that. And it's been shown through research that having these type of landscapes that are more interesting and have more visual appeal actually increase property values in relation to more traditionally landscape or lawn-based landscapes. And so you can really do some things with these native plants that are really interesting and are functional and beautiful. And so a lot of people think of native plants, they think of them as more wild, naturalistic. If you like that look, you can absolutely have a more naturalistic landscape, but you can also have native plants in a more formal way. They blend really good to like the cottage garden style of landscaping. And you can have some really cool features in terms of like rainwater harvesting, compost pile, like a variety of different things rather than just grass. So here are a few more just inspirational photos of how, you know, a typical suburban lawn might look when converted to these more natural landscapes and these native plants. So now I'm just going to talk about some of my favorite native plants at the end here. And so a lot of these plants, the reason why they are my favorites is because I grow them personally. I love them. They're beautiful. I see them attracting pollinators, and they're also easy to grow. So I am not a person who likes to water my yard at all, and I'm not a person who likes to do a lot in terms of like, I love planting plants, but I don't really want to do a lot of like weeding or like maintaining them that much. I want them to just be beautiful. And so about 5 minutes left here, and I'm just going to tell you about a few of my favorites. So Amelia Sage is a great one, right? I think most of us probably know about it. There are a bunch of different varieties you can get. I love it because it blooms for such a long period of time, pretty much the entire time when we're not below freezing. And butterflies love it. Bees love it. If you like the big bees, like carpenter bees and bumblebees. Autumn sage is beautiful as well, super drought tolerant. You can get it in a variety of colors. Nice little kind of low growing bush type thing. And these things are evergreen and will be blooming, you know, like in the middle of January sometimes. And so I love that about them. Turk's cap, I love Turk's cap because it's happy to be dry, happy to be wet, happy in the shade, happy in the sun, and it attracts hummingbirds. I love hummingbirds. There's one of these growing outside of my office window, and I just love being able to look over from my, you know, boring computer work and see a bunch of hummingbirds, you know, flying around. Also, they have an edible fruit, so you can eat the little fruit. It's like a little tiny green apple. Zexmania or Wedelia, love this one. Again, it blooms for a long period of time and it's super drought tolerant. So if you have spots that are super dry, this one loves it. And our smaller butterflies and smaller native bees really like these beautiful yellow flowers. And you'll just get, I mean, thousands of these yellow flowers throughout the year. Lantana, most of us know about lantana. There are so many different colors of lantana you can get. Again, a lot of those don't attract pollinators the same as our native one does. But if you're going for our native one, that is this kind of dark orange to yellow flower. And this one's great for hummingbirds as well, great for our larger butterflies. And then after it's done making the flower, it makes a little berry-like fruit, and songbirds love that. So if you're into pollinators and songbirds, this is a good one. Purple cone flower, pretty much a classic. I like it because it looks like a classic, you know, like landscaping flower or whatever. Beautiful big purple flowers, great for pollinators, and it's also a medicinal plant, so echinacea. This flower, man. If you want butterflies, this is the plant to plant. I mean, end of story. If there's only one plant that you plant to attract butterflies, it is mistflower. You got Greg's mistflower. There's blue mistflower. You can get white mistflower if you like it in white. But this is a very easy plant to grow. It's super aggressive. It will spread. You can get many, many new plants to give to your friends after just a few years of growing this stuff, and butterflies love it. Fall aster is really pretty. It's one that kind of just looks like a more traditional, like bush type thing during most of the year, and then all of a sudden in the fall, it just explodes with these beautiful blooms. And so I like that. I like it for more traditional landscapes. If you're looking for that more traditional, like bush landscape type of look, it will take pruning if you want to prune it into like a square, or, you know, that type of thing that people do with bushes. But then it looks really great during the fall. Texas sage, or barometer bush, some people call it, cenizo. All these things have so many common names, but just a super interesting one. Another evergreen bush, right? So something that can add interest to your landscape during the winter time. And it has a silver type of leaf, which I really like. You know, it gives that different texture, that different color in your landscape. And then of course it blooms after the rain. And it's actually, people call it barometer bush because it's actually not blooming in relation to the rain, it's blooming in relation to the change in atmospheric pressure. So sometimes you'll have those times when it gets super humid but doesn't actually rain, this thing will still bloom afterwards. If you're looking for something like a low-growing thing, a low-growing, more ground cover, I love both Callilopus or Sundrops and Wine Cup. Wine Cup is more higher water use, so it might need a little bit of watering, whereas the Callilopus is really low water use, likes it hot, and can actually die if you overwater it. So if you've got some really dry areas or like a rock garden type thing, the Sundrops are great for it. But they're blooming right now during the springtime, and they will just have, both of them, a ton of blooms during the spring. And then last but not least, I want to just put my plug in for grasses. We do live in a tall grass prairie ecosystem, and these tall grasses, these tall clumping style grasses are really important in terms of our refilling our soil with water, using these really deep fibrous roots to break up our native clay soils and allow water to infiltrate down in them, add organic matter to these clay soils that we have, and they're great for wildlife as well. Because we live in a prairie ecosystem, a lot of our native birds are not tree nesting birds, they're ground nesting birds, and this is the type of thing that they nest in. And those are the birds whose populations are dropping so much now because of things like cats being outside and not having places to lay their young. And so there's so many beautiful grasses. Grasses add interest, texture to our landscapes, get some of that height in there. Here's some more awesome grasses. Linheimer's muley, Gulf muley, beautiful feather-looking, type of blooms. And also most of our grasses are blooming during the fall time, which adds a lot more interest to our landscape when we're transitioning from fall into winter time. And then last but not least, if you must have turf grass, we do have a native turf grass. It's buffalo grass. And so if you really want turf grass, this is something that you can have that is still going to lower your water use and lower your carbon footprint and everything while still having the same. And it's got a beautiful foot feel too. If you're the type of person that likes to walk around barefoot in your grass, it has a really thin blade. All right, that's all I have. I'll take any questions if anyone has any questions. And here's some websites that you can go to for more information. Thank you. Thanks so much. I hope I've encouraged some of you to kill your lawn, or at least maybe a portion of it. And I do want to say just one last thing. We are right now trying to come up with programs or planning programs where we will incentivize lawn removal. And so keep an eye on SaveTerraWater.com over the next year or so, and we might be able to, pay you to remove your lawn, which is just a great little perk. So thank you so much for having me.
At this time, Robin's going to come. She has something for Heather.
Most of y'all don't know how much Heather Bass helps us in our education programs. Excuse me. Most of y'all don't know how much Heather helps us in our education programs. She is a gem. I mean, she's out at the demo garden and everything with us when we're just frantically working on something, barrel builds or anything. And so today she gets the booby prize. She gets a wicking bucket from us. I have not watered it, so when the water's in it, it gets heavy.
What is it? Rosemary? Sage?
It has rosemary and oregano in it.
Oh, oregano. Thank you. Thank
Thanks
you,
again,
guys.
Heather.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Okay, so right now I'm going to call this meeting to order. And I'm going to welcome guests. Let me get my... I apologize. So we do have two guests today. We have Beth and Louis, I believe it's Lickman. Are you here? Okay, there. Welcome. Go ahead and stand up, yeah. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, the business meeting will now come to order. So the minutes were sent out, or they were published in the e-blast. Were there any corrections? If none, then they stand approved as published. So we're going to have our reports of officers, and we're going to start with Donna Perica, our treasurer.
I'm sorry I don't have a visual on the financial statement yet. I'm just reading some of my notes. The banks and PayPal don't release their financial statements till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, so I'm sorry. I didn't stay up all night and finish it. Okay, our cash balance is $163,842. We had some receivables from TRWD, 2678. And we have a small credit card balance, $285. Our revenues year-to-date stand at $42,365. Had cost against that, $17,007, leaving a gross profit of $24,606. Our operating expenses year-to-date is $34,035. So our expenses exceed our income by $9,429. We have most of the information in from a lot of our spring fundraisers. I know the biggest one is the plant sale. Our plant sale overall grossed $10,700. Of that, $6,700 was from purchased plants, and a little over $4,000 was from plants that were grown in our greenhouse. That represents, from purchased plants, that represents a reduction of $2,200 over the prior year, but our greenhouse, that represents an increase of $2,800 over the prior year. We had cost $2,461. Our gross profit for the whole sale was $82.81. We had a few operating expenses, and we have some greenhouse operating expenses, but we still made $6,700 after everything. There is some minor deposits that have just been given today that are not in here, but this gives you a pretty good idea about our plant sale. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, next we're going to have Loretta come and talk to us about our July speaker. As most of you know, next month in June we have our silent auction. So.
All right, for July, we have Steve Lovecki coming to speak to us. A group of us saw him at the Fort Worth Botanic Garden. He was at the Yard Smart event. He's very charismatic and talks about succulent and cacti rescue. So more details in the e-blast.
Okay, thank you. And next we're going to have our Ways and Means, Erica Fisher, come and talk to us about our raffle winners and give us any updates. But yeah, next month, as you know, June is our silent auction for our projects. So come prepared to bid on some really cool stuff.
Okay, hello. Okay, so before I do the raffle winners, we have the Clavium announcements and the elephant ears. We have the back for sale. You get 10 for $13, go buy them. The elephant ears is 3 for $8. Please go buy them. Really, please, we need you to buy them. Okay, thank you. And now for the raffle winners. Okay, so for the Mother's Day quilt, which is beautiful, Linda Bynum. And then for the apron and the tools, it is Faye Swindle? Yes. And then for the bag, the Laura Ashley bag, is Cindy Hill. The feeder is just Chris Geisel. Yay! And then for the garden organizer, Jan Brown. Last but not least, you need the beads, protectors, and the glove goes to Stinson Jones. And please go back there and buy the Claviums because they are really good. We've got bags of it. Y'all need to buy some for real. That's it. Have a good day, everybody. See y'all next month.
Thank you, Erica. Okay, now we're going to have our extension agent, Jay, come up and give us his report.
I don't have much to talk about today, but I do have one announcement that there is a Master Volunteer Entomology Advanced Training coming up. It's gonna be, I think in August and September, it's for 8 weeks. And it's gonna be over 30 instructional hours. I've got flyers here, and then it will also come out in a news blast on Monday. Then we are doing the Tarrant County Employee Appreciation Picnic, which is the 15th of next month, or this month. And I need volunteers to work that. We've got plants that the Stars are providing and our green that we've grown that we're going to be selling to the employees during their picnic. It's from 12 to 2 on the 15th. So if you can volunteer, just let me know. You can send me an email. And then lastly, I would like to introduce our new apiary specialist for Tarrant County. His name is Omar Martinez. He's up here. So if you have any questions about bees, he's the guy to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, we're going to start with our committee reports, and we're going to start with Nancy. She has an announcement she needs to make.
If you guys bought a Carhartt logo wear bag with a zipper, we stuffed it with some of our supplies just to make it expand out. So if you bought one of the 3 Carhartt bags, would you please look inside and see if one of our stuffings, we need our stuffing back.
Okay. All right, so community events. We're going to have Patsy Miller come and talk to us a little bit about community events.
Hello, and I first want to thank all of you that volunteered this past week. I think we had a record event. We had 10 events just that one week from Tuesday to Saturday. We had 10 events. And I want to give a shout out to Bob London, who did 3 of those events. And the ladies at the Museum of Science and History event faced 1,000 young people bussed in on a field day. So they faced a record number of people. And then we had many others that had like 150 to 200 at our Master Gardener table. And every one of the replies I got back said how much fun they had and how people enjoyed the information that we had, and we just had a good time sharing the information with both young people and older people and those experienced Master Gardeners and those newbies. So it is a fun thing to do. And all of that leading up to the fact that I still need more volunteers for Mayfest, which is starting today. And it is, too, a very fun and a traditional event. If you don't know about it, in Fort Worth since the 1970s, it's just a way to celebrate the environment and being outdoors. And it looks like we are going to have several days of good weather. And so it's a good people watching. It's lots of fun. And people like our booth because it's the only gardening information there. And they may not have thought about gardening or anything at the moment, but when they see our booth, they get interested in what they might do. So I need volunteers starting this afternoon at 3:30 and ends to 6. I need tomorrow 3:30 to 6. I need Saturday 10 to 2:30, and then 2:30 to 5 p.m. and Sunday 11 to 2, and then 2 to 5. And parking, I have parking passes for you, so you don't have to pay for parking. And if you want to bring your family, I have free admission passes too. But again, I need to know today because I need to get the parking passes to you. And it is a fun time. And then another thing that we have been invited to be a part of is the Homeowner's Guide to Landscaping. And that's something that Heather Bass, who is just here as our speaker, is kind of heading up. And it's sponsored by TRWD, and it's going to be an all-day event, well, from 9 to 1 o'clock at the esports stadium in Arlington. And it's just going to be information on general landscaping. And they would like to have us, we're going to have an information table there. She just needs people to be greeters and to help organize, and not necessarily organize, but just do some tasks during the event, gophers, if you will. And then we have at least a couple of ours that are going to be sort of consultants or ask a gardener if people have specific questions. So we have needs for different kinds of volunteers there. And remember, this all is not pulling weeds, and it all goes towards your yearly accreditation.
Thank you, Patsy. Okay, now we're going to have Lance Johnson come and give us an update on our demonstration garden.
Hello, TCMGA Master Gardeners. I want to thank Sherry for including us in this group and putting up with us a little bit. I did write my notes this time because last time I was critiqued, they said I was a little wordy. Can't hardly believe that. Anyway, Randy, I wanted to thank you and the leads and the volunteers for setting the garden up for such a beautiful spring. I don't know if you've been out there recently, but it's really looking sharp, looking beautiful. And Randy and the leads and the co-leads really set us up for success. So I really, really appreciate that. Oh, that's not mine. It's not working then. Oh, wait, it's working. Okay, so we're set up for success. We have repaired more leaks than I can ever imagine. I had no idea. And FYI, if you're working in the garden, I don't care what you say, it's created by a shovel. And you're the only ones with shovels. So when you're out there digging around, just keep an eye open. If you see this brown pipe or a black pipe, that's water. So you just give us a hint. If you do hit it, we understand, don't worry about it. We're putting some red flags around. So take the red flags and just put it where you did it or where you saw it, where it is, wherever it might be, and we will get to it. If you shoot a picture to us, that's even better, but we're trying on that. Operation Take the Pavilion Back has been a huge success. Bob has spent many hours repairing fans, grills, burners, and more. I believe you'll see more of this in the Demo Garden destination location very soon. By the way, we're looking for, thank you. Yeah, Bob's done a great job. I don't know if you've seen it, but the fans look new. The whole area is really looking nice. But we are looking for a couple of people. If you think, I'm a really good master gardener, but I'm even a better painter, and I love painting white benches, then send an email to me, send an email to Bob, and we will get you hooked up. We are your dream come true. Ken has also been in the garden, and Ken has continued to build. His most recent project includes an awning that gives our Japanese maple cover from the Texas sun. So Ken, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. There we go. Earth Day at the Garden. Earth Day at the Garden, I don't know how many of y'all knew that this was Earth Day this week. We had a great week out there. The Amazon crew, I got a call from Jay. Jay said, we got some people from Amazon. You think you can put them busy? We were able to coordinate with the Amazon sustainability team for a volunteer morning at the garden. The Amazon volunteers helped unload and organize plants for the plant sale. They stained the enabling beds. They helped Mary Ann dig up a tree in the succulent garden. I was part of that too. We dug up the tree with a pickaxe and planted a new plant in its place. And after all of that, Donna presented her internationally known wicking basket training, and we presented one of their members with her own wicking bucket. And I think that's an investment in our future. I think we need to do more of that. If you have a company that's interested in that, I will personally wear a chef's hat, and it will make me an official chef, and I will cook hot dogs. They have to provide the hot dogs, but I will cook them. Whoops. Wait, I'm not done. Hold on. Okay, so many of you also may have seen our notice in the weekly notice that we're looking for a lead and co-lead for the berry and orchard garden. We have made a lot of progress in this area. We've got a long way to go. We've planted a lot of trees. We have weeds that are up this high, and so we have a plan on that. It's not a good one, but it's a plan. And please email or call Bob or I if you are interested in helping with that project, because I think the berry and orchard area could be a destination location for our garden as well. And there we go. We have a lot going on. Feel free to call one of our team members or leads, or simply drop by and make yourself at home. It's better when we spend time together in the garden. And this is just some of the things that are going on right now. We've built a quarantine hoop house. We've got things in bloom. We found a banner. We have new grow light tray stand. It's really cool. It has a lot more than that, but I couldn't fit it on the slide. And our square foot garden and produce, we have got so much production from that. Almost everybody in this room has probably shared some of the stuff that has been coming out of there. So thank y'all, appreciate y'all. Oh, and the determinate and indeterminate gardens in there, thank you for helping us on that, Brett. But does we all know determinate and indeterminate, because they taught us that in class. What does that mean? Well, we're going to find out, because they're growing right there. Appreciate y'all.
Oh, thanks, Lance. So next we're going to have Cheryl Whited come and give us updates on our greenhouses.
Am I going to do both at the same time, or am I going to come back up? I'm bringing two hats. You can do both. Okay, thank you. Just because, it changes the look. I got two heads. No, well, maybe he asked if I have two heads. Maybe. But I have two hats. So this is one of my greenhouse hats. So I'm so excited, y'all. I know you've never seen me really excited, but I just want to jump up and down at the thought of our new greenhouse coming along. We are looking at having it stored. It's going to be 2 pallets worth of stuff that'll be stored until we get things prepared for it. But what we're going to be asking you to think about is think about your skill sets. Do you have skill sets that will help us assemble the new greenhouse? Greg gave us a quote. Where are you, Greg? Are you here? I thought I saw him. In the back. Okay. Oh, you can hide. So the quote was something like, if you had 3 or 4 people, it would take them 100 plus man hours, correct, to put the new greenhouse together. But what if you had 30 people, or 40 or 50 people? So just be thinking on down the line the fall, if you want to help us assemble the greenhouse, and we're talking the structure. And it's going to be somewhat like, I consider it a hoop house too, because the sides are going to roll up. We'll have cranks that can roll it up. We're looking at a situation. Heather mentioned how much they paid us this last month. They're going to pay us more this next month because they've gotten so many plants from us. Because she picked up 350 4-inch pots and 4 pots last weekend from us. And so that's either $2 a pot or $4 a pot. So they're wanting to really increase what we can provide them with. We're wanting to increase what we grow for them. So the new greenhouse, the plan is it won't have a workspace in the middle like the existing greenhouse. It'll be more tables to grow plants on. Yes, sir?
Construct it in the fall?
Yes, we're going to construct it in the fall. That's the plan. That's the plan. And we're going to be moving things around, some of the beds, everything, so we're going to have some site preparation. So we're looking November to get started. Because hopefully it'll be, cooler by then. But I'm just so excited about the whole direction we're going with this. If there are things that you and your projects want grown, please let us know in the greenhouse growers. I know we've been providing some things for some of the projects, but
a lot of you haven't asked for plants. So start thinking about what you would like to have perhaps for the fall. Because we have this new lovely grow station, and Ken's here somewhere too. I thought I saw him. There you are, hi Ken. Do you know, Ken, we planted things last Tuesday in community pots. And when I came up on Thursday, they were already sprouting. And so this is marigolds and millet that we're going to use as a trap crop. But I mean, it makes such a difference when you have adjustable lights. And of course, this time of year, we don't need heat maps. So our new seed starting station prototype is awesome. And Jay was talking to me about how we can use irrigation in the new greenhouse. So with the misters, the drip irrigation and misters, and have the lights still above them, because that was my one worry. So will you consult with me? Can I consult with you?
Certainly.
Oh, yay! Okay. So anyway, any questions about the greenhouse, shoot them to me. We're forming a new team with Greg and Jessica and other people I can rope in. And I know that Sherry read a list last month of who was on the greenhouse team. And so please feel free to express your opinions. I know we're not shy. So if you think we need to do something, this is the time to tell us. Because I'm starting to look at floor plans for greenhouses. And if you have a greenhouse and have experience with something that did or didn't work, will you let me know? Yes? Yes? Okay. Switching hands. Speakers Bureau.
Do we have an online manual that we can look at now for the construction?
Do we have, Greg, this is a question for you. Is there an online manual that we can look at now on how to construct the greenhouse kit we're buying?
Yes.
Yes. Will you send it to me? Yes. Yes, and then we can put it on the e-blast? Yay, thank you. That was a good question. Smart, yes.
FYI, we talked about the footprint of the whole thing.
Yes.
Not just the greenhouse itself.
Yes.
The footprint.
Yes.
We've marked that out, Greg and I have marked that out, and we have yellow markers now. You will see how large the area is going to be. We have yellow markers now. You can go out there, see how big the footprint actually is.
Can everybody hear that? Okay, so there is a footprint because the greenhouse is 30 feet wide by 40 feet long. Is that was the dimensions? Yes. But we're looking to go 10 feet, 15 feet out on each side so that we can get equipment along the sides of it. So it's going to be a decent footprint. Okay, next time. Speakers Bureau, because it helps. We are doing an awesome job. I just started working on the report for April, so I don't have a final number, but in March, we talked to over 1,000 people through our Speakers Bureau presentations. So that, y'all should give yourselves a hand because that's awesome that we can reach that many people. And that's including our online virtual presentations and then in person. And so the public is still, in some ways it reminds me of when we were at COVID, when everybody started getting into gardening. People are still so hungry for information on gardening. And we kind of get a little jaded, I think, sometimes as master gardeners because if we don't know something, we've got a friend we can call or we look it up. But these are people who are still unsure of who to talk to and what to ask. And so anytime we do a presentation, it's just very valuable. And the teacher in me is always going to love that we are educating the public. Coming up, well, Teresa and Dick are awesome because they saved us, because we have a DIY rainwater harvesting event this weekend, and I had assumed somebody else had been filling those positions, and I just let it slip, and so they said they'd do it. So, yay. Well, we do appreciate it very much. And then in May, there are 2 openings on the spreadsheet, but they are Patsy Miller events, so I'm going to take the yellow box off. So we're doing well. Heather told me today she's got a new request, a couple of new requests, so I'll get those in the spreadsheet. Just please do me a favor when you get the e-blast, look at the spreadsheet if you're interested, and remember you can always present together. We have a bunch of new interns who seem to be very excited about presenting. Liz is here somewhere. She's gonna make the most wonderful tomato presentation I know. We're just gonna, and just totally tomatoes, but that's something that the public would eat up, so. Any questions about Speakers Bureau? Do what?
No pun
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't even know what I make puns, sorry. Yes. So, because I'm excited about Citrus Bureau, but, so anyway, okay. Thank y'all for everything.
Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, now we are going to have our hospitality lead, Linda Streeter, come and make an announcement.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to invite everybody here and everybody who's not here. We are going to have our summer hot dog cookout after our June meeting. It's going to be at the demo garden, at the pavilion there, and the demo garden crew, Lance is going to get to have this opportunity to put his chef's hat on, and they will be serving hot dogs, fresh from the grill, chips, cookies, soda, and water. This is also going to be a wonderful opportunity for y'all to come on over to the demo gardens, look at all the beautiful flowers that are blooming right now, and see all the hard work that's going on over there. We will have a container at the cookout if you would like to make a small donation to help us cover the cost. So thank you all, and hope to see you June 5th.
Thank you, Linda. Like she said, this cookout, they're not charging for this, but they will be asking for some donations just to help cover the cost of a few things. So the next thing, last month we recognized our volunteers for their years of service, and there was a name that was inadvertently left off of that. And we wanted to recognize Joanne Hahn. I don't know if she's here today, but Joanne has been a Master Gardener for over 31 years. Most of you know her. She was a lead of the perennial garden for many years, but we just wanted to make sure that her name was recognized. And then Teresa Thomas is going to come talk to us about projects.
Pam Rock couldn't be here today. She's the lead for the project committee, but we wanted to remind everybody, and Cheryl has done that as well, that next in June is our annual project silent auction. And for projects, it's all the projects we work at and in the demo garden as well. And we have some neat stuff. The leads and the teams put together some really interesting and great items that you can bid on. They usually have 1 to 3 items, and so be sure and come and enjoy, and then do the hot dog. Thank you.
Teresa. Okay, and now we're going to move on to some announcements. First, we have the Japanese Garden Tour in Arlington has been scheduled for Saturday, May 17th. Details were in the e-blast, but for any of you who may not have seen it, this is a friend of Patsy Miller's, and this is a residential garden. And Don Miners has graciously opened up his garden so that we can come tour this. And he and his wife are also going to provide a traditional tea ceremony for anyone who would like to attend that. So again, the details were in the e-blast, and if you want to participate in that, you can just email me. Next, I don't want anybody to forget that Sunday, May 11th is Mother's Day. So just want to throw that out there for you so you guys can remember all your moms. And then, of course, we have Memorial Day coming up at the end of the month, which is May 26th. And then also, the 2025 International Conference registration has opened up. So right now, you can register, there is a discounted registration, early bird registration. And there is details in the e-blast along with a link to the website that will give you more information on the speakers and what this is about. It is via Zoom, so it's not in person. But there's also a link to register for that. And then our next monthly business meeting will be on Thursday, June 5th. And of course, we're going to have the hot dog lunch after that. So make plans to come and spend some time not only here at the silent auction, but at our demo garden afterwards. The next advisory board meeting will be in person at 1801 building on May 15th. That begins at 9:30, and the executive board meeting will be immediately after that. And then last, for any of you who did not see the e-blast, it is with deep sadness that we announce the passing of our Master Gardener, Mary Lou Yost. Mary Lou passed away Saturday, April 26th, due to complications from following her knee surgery. There is a celebration of life that will be held on Saturday, May 3rd at 2 p.m. at the United Methodist Church in Mansfield. There's also a visitation with family that will be held from 1 to 2 p.m. So if you're interested in going there, I'm sure the family would appreciate the support. The family has requested that because of Mary Lou's passion for gardening, in lieu of flowers, donations be made to Tarrant County Master Gardener Association. So the Master Gardener community has truly lost a treasure. She's going to be greatly missed, and I just ask that you keep her husband George and their family in your prayers. Is there any other announcements? If not, then this meeting is adjourned.